All right, it's time to talk some hoops. Derek, we need some basketball talk. It's that time. October, sadly, for football, it's there again unless they turn the season around. So let's talk some basketball. We got some 10 questions we're going to go over, some Illinois, some Big Ten, as we prepare for the start of college basketball season. But we got an exhibition game in 8 days, man.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's sneaking up on us, and I get it. A lot of fans definitely fully transitioning into basketball mode for the most part. We'll see. We've seen Brett Bielema, even in his first season, get a little things going there in that second half. We'll see if that happens. Tough stretch here coming up. But I'm ready to talk hoops. I know we're 2 weeks away or so from that Kansas scrimmage. That's going to be awesome. And a lot of expectations and just questions about this basketball team. I know they're talented. And I'm like everybody, I'm ready to see it on the floor and make some judgments out of that.
Yeah, Bill Self feeling even better about himself after the NCAA case just kind of went poof for him. All right, before we get into this, though, Derek, it was kind of a big recruiting weekend. I saw a lot of the coaching staff there with some younger talent, 2025, 2026, the Nebraska game on Friday night. Just take us through a little bit about that recruiting weekend for Illinois.
Yeah, first and foremost, Phoenix Gill coming down, of course, the legacy recruit, getting to visit in to Illinois. And he'd come out in recent weeks and said, if you've followed it on 24/7 Sports. I know Alec Bussey used to cover the Illini when he was at Illinois. Quoted him as saying Iowa State, Stanford, Northwestern are really his top three. Illinois kind of running fourth, and he just wanted to see where Illinois prioritized him and how they saw him in their future plans. So I think that for some people, even admittedly myself, looking at Stanford had only offered about a week prior to him saying that. I was like, Illinois was your first offer. They've been involved a lot. You didn't play AAU. Illinois went out in June. The only opportunity to see him over the summer and really watched him closely. But, of course, Phoenix has the best judge of what that relationship's like and what the conversations are like. But it sounds like Illinois really took a firm step towards making him a priority, letting him know that he's a guy that they have big plans for. And we'll see. I think that you go into his junior season, you haven't seen him against a lot of high-level competition. He had a good year last year, St. Ignatius, about 11 points a game. Showed out well in that game against Simeon in the state semifinal, had 21 points. But I like him. I like what I saw in June. We'll see if he grows anymore. About 6'2" right now, probably a combo guard. I think ideally if he could get into that 6'4" range, maybe progress a little late physically like his dad did, that would really put him in a spot to succeed going into college. So that was a big visit. And I wrote up an article on him here recently. You can get all of his comments and whatnot. I thought it was pretty positive for what Illinois is able to do. Another big one in 25, Chuck Love, the third, coming in from La Lumiere, a guy that plays Mocan Elite, kind of in that Kansas City range on the AAU circuit. And Chester Frazier, he's made him one of his biggest priorities going into this class. And he's a 6'5", 6'6" wing type that's a good athlete, can really score it from anywhere, from three, mid-range. He's a really good player. He's in that top 50, top 60 range in that class. So getting him on campus, he's got a number of options at this point, but I think he feels like Illinois has prioritized him and Chester's working that hard. So that's certainly good to see for Illinois. And then finally, Melvin Bell coming down, the guy that was with that St. Rita group last year. And of course, they had a disappointing season. And he was coming off of a significant injury, missed a lot of time after a scary injury. I think he pretty much tore up his leg, tore up his knee in an AAU game. That would have been 2 summers ago. So coming back midseason last year, someone that's been highly hyped, going into his high school career and has a lot of athleticism, really good build. And if he gets back to being who he was pre-injury, he'll be a definite target on Illinois' board, and getting him on campus is always good.
Yeah, it seems like now the focus is getting to 25, 26. Of course, Jeremiah Fears could be 24 or 25 at this point, but kind of flipping turning the page there into the next couple classes. All right, Derek, let's focus on Illinois, the start of practice. They started about a week ago now with full practice for them. And I want to put it this way. They got, 4 weeks before their first game of the season against Eastern Illinois. The next 4 weeks of practice, the exhibitions, are most important for which Illini player?
I think for me, it's going to start. It's probably going to be a recurring theme at the ball handling. Ty Rodgers. I think Ty Rodgers, any and all experiences he can get operating as this team's top point guard is the most important thing for this team. I think as he goes into game action, what that looks like in terms of putting him in ball screens, having to make decisions, seeing the floor well. Does Illinois get him in some post-up opportunities? I'm really going to be interested in seeing if there's some booty ball involved in this in this offense and how Brad's going about just scheming the offense and trying to put him in positions to be successful. Of course, yes, the shot making around him is going to go hand in hand with making him look good. I think obviously you can include Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn in that when he's going to play on the ball, Nicolo Moretti when he's on the ball. But yeah, I think that for me, it's Ty. And I've heard a lot of good things about Ty throughout the offseason. I mean, the coaching staff has been really complimentary of the way that he's embraced the film room and just learning and listening and growing throughout the year. But I think until the season starts, again, any chance for him to get better and to fine tune his point guard skills, I think that's the most important thing for this team.
The guy I would add is Marcus Damask, just because he didn't get to play a lot with the team with that hamstring injury, was held out of Spain. So just getting in a rhythm and a flow with the team, I think is going to be really important, because I think he's one of the most important players on this team, given that he can shoot, given that he can facilitate, he can create a little bit. I just think he's such an important piece of this team, and getting chemistry with Coleman Hawkins, Terrence Shannon, Ty Rodgers, Dane Danger, right? Like whether he starts or comes off the bench, he's just such an important piece, Derek. And I think getting him into a rhythm with this team is going to be important.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, they got high expectations for him, a guy that they need to be a pretty good shot maker, if not a knockdown shooter from the outside. And I know we talked about it before, transitioning from SIU, where he's #1 on the scouting reports. Maybe he's in a little bit of a different circumstance now as a catch and shoot that gets some better looks. And I mean, he's played a ton of basketball, scored a lot of points. And as somebody that's physically strong, that he can play kind of at the 3, at the 4, he's someone that, getting him in a rhythm, especially as things ratchet up. You play Marquette, and obviously the front end of December is really, really tough. Getting him back in a groove is going to be very important.
Yeah, and they've slimmed him down a little bit. He's lost some weight, play more of the 3 role probably than the 4 role here at Illinois. All right, Derek, Illinois picked to finish 4th in the Big Ten. You and I put a ballot together for the athletic poll, the 24/7 sports poll. We had them 4th. So we do have a little bit of confidence in this team, despite some angst about the team. What gives you the most confidence about this Illinois basketball team?
There's, of course, a couple of different ways you could go, but I will say experience. I think for me, it's the amount of experience this team has. You bring in 3 grad transfers who are all 5th-year guys. You got Damask, again, I mean, he's played and started a million games essentially at SIU. Justin Harmon's played 2 years at the D1 level. And as an older guy, you've got Quincy Guerrier, who's played 4 years at the high major level between the ACC and then the Pac-12. Mix that in with Terrence Shannon Jr., who's going to be a 5th-year guy. You've got Coleman Hawkins, who's in his 4th year. And even the returners who are still like in class, fairly younger, like Ty Rodgers, Sincere Harris. Those guys have a year under their belt. Luke Goody, even though he played 10 games last year, is on paper a junior and has been in the program now going into his 3rd year. So I like the amount of experience that Illinois has to get in some moments. I was digging through for my stuff on my most recent article on offensive identity and looking at their late game issues. There was a lot of issues on last year's team, but late game was a big problem. And I think that teams that are older and have been there before are more apt to execute and get things done in those crunch time moments. And last season could have looked a lot different if Illinois would have been able to, been a little bit more effective in those crunch time spots. So yes, this team has depth. Yes, this team has talent and athleticism, but I'll just go, my biggest thing that stands out, I think, is the experience factor.
My biggest thing probably, Derek, is I think this team's going to be great defensively. I think they should be. They need to be great defensively, because we'll talk about some of the offensive concerns here coming up. The other part is Brad Underwood teams have been pretty good defensively, but now you look at the size, the length, and the rebounding of this team. I think they should have more possessions than the other team a lot of times. So, and I think they're going to get a lot more second chance opportunities offensively with their rebounding. So probably the physicality, length, that all adds to defense, rebounding. I think this team's going to be really good at those things. And then you bring up the experience. I think they're going to cut down on turnovers and have a little bit of better shot selection. Whether they can make those shots is still a concern, but I think this is, one of the best personnel groups he's had defensively and rebounding. Obviously Kofi Coburn makes that a lot better when the last couple of years before he left, but I think this team should be really strong defensively. If they're not, I'd be really disappointed.
Yeah, and that can help a lot in terms of turning defense into offense. I know that, Brad I asked him, are you trying to create more turnovers? And we're looking at the fact they had 13 steals a game in Spain. And he kind of pushed back on that, said, no, I mean, competition plays into that. But, they want to be sound and trusting their guys like, the physicality of Ty Rodgers and Terrence Shannon, and obviously the athleticism of Sincere Harris to be able to get into people. I mean, Justin Harmon is a strong body guard that has had a knack for getting his hands on the basketball too defensively. Of course, inside, I mean, Guerrier is really physical. Dane obviously brings that. Marcus Damas can play physical as well. Goody's got an upperclassman body that is always willing to throw his body around and play with effort. So I agree with you as far as the rebounding goes. I think that they can be, if you want to look at it offensively too, can be a little bit more effective offensive rebounding than they were last year. Took a little bit of a step back naturally without Kofi Coburn. But I think that if they're as good as they think they can be defensively, then that will help them get out in transition and ease some of the half-court concerns potentially offensively.
Because nobody's stopping Terrence Shannon in transition. Hopefully Sincere Harris gets better at that. Justin Harmon's good in transition. Like, they got guys.
Lawhorn.
Yeah, Lawhorn can do that. But yeah, adjusted defense under Brad Underwood the last 4 years, 35-7, 29-26 in the country. I think they should be top 25. Like, I think that's a realistic goal for this team. All right, next question, Derek. What concerns you the most, point guard or shooting?
Man, I can make a good argument for either one. I think I'll go
hand in hand as well. So
they do go hand in hand. I think that as you look at it, as I kind of mentioned it earlier, that if there is a good amount of shot making around Ty Rodgers, that's going to make life a lot easier for him. It's going to be harder to pack the paint on him. He'll be able to see the fact that, hey, if Goody's in one corner, Damascus in another, those guys can't cheat, because if they do, then you kick it out and that's a three. Shannon, if he improves his ability to be a catch and shoot guy, and I think with Rodgers personally, I like the fact of playing Coleman Hawkins at the 5 the most when Rodgers on the floor. Get some pick and pop looks. Coleman ability to knock down catch and shoots again is going to be really vital. But if I look at it singularly, I would say point guard position, because of, while I like the team's experience as a whole, the lack of experience at point guard. I mean, Ty Rodgers, you look at the synergy numbers, he had 31 possessions of usage in ball screens last year. Nicolo Moretti has not played in college. Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn has not played in college. Yes, Sincere Harris has played some. I don't want him operating offense too much, running your offense. Can he push a break and get to the rim? Yes. But in terms of creating and facilitating the half court, that's not really his game. Justin Harmon's played in a bunch of ball screens. He's also turned it over a bunch in his career as well. So I think as I look at that, point guard inexperience is my biggest concern, although there is a very good case to be said for shooting, because they don't have I think Luke Goody can be it. He's going to have to do it at a bigger sample size. Marcus Damas stepping up into a different role. Do they have a knockdown, dead-eye shooter? I don't know. I don't know if they do.
I think they have more competent, I think that was the word you used in your story today, shooters, capable shooters. So I think that's going to go up a little bit. I don't think they'll be great shooting team. I think they'll get more possessions because they'll rebound better. You are probably right with the point guard play, Derek, just because you have more guys that have shown they can be capable shooters than a capable point guard on this team. The only reason I could go shooting is because that includes free throw shooting. Yeah. I think that number is maybe almost as important as three-point shooting, because I think this team's going to draw a lot of fouls. Terrence Shannon, Dane Danger, I think even Marcus Domask, Ty Rodgers, those guys are going to get a lot of free throws. Domask, I think, will make them. Shannon, I think we've seen will make them. But Danger, can he shoot over 50%, 55%? I don't know. Ty Rodgers, can he shoot over 40%? Like, we got to see that. Sincere Harris, can he shoot over 25%? Like that, we need to see that from those guys, because they're going to get free throw opportunities. Can they make the most of them? Because those are empty possessions. Those are the turnovers, missing those front ends, or going 0 for 2. So that's another huge concern for me, is just that free throw shooting, because I think it's going to be a strength drawing them, but they got to make them.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with all that. That was a killer last year. When you look at, I talked about late in games. I think that's a big thing for Underwood to figure out with lineups, like what he wants to do when you have a lead or you're playing in crunch time, and can you afford to have too many guys out there that can't make free throws? And what do you do with Ty in that standpoint? Can he make a big enough progress forward in terms of being more competent at the free throw line? And really, if I were to list the 3 guys, and I'd be interested in your input on this, 3 guys most likely to get fouled and go to the line are probably Terrence Shannon, Ty Rodgers, and Dane Danger, I would imagine. And of those 3, I mean, Terrence is a good free throw shooter, but the other 2 are not at all. So I do think, if you have a lead, you put Goody out there, you put Damask out there. I trust those guys to go to the line and make them. But yeah, I mean, this team can attack downhill. They said they want to shoot less threes. That means more drives to the basket. Can you convert that and really make teams pay at the free throw line? To be determined.
Yeah, Ty Rodgers will start. I don't know if he'll close. because yeah, that's a huge issue until proven otherwise. Illinois 67.9% from the free throw line, 309th in the country. Can you get that to 70? I think that would be massive for this team. All right, which transfer makes the biggest impact on this season for Illinois basketball?
I'll go with Marcus Damask. I think that in terms of his ability to just do a lot of different things offensively, like for a team that's going to lack in point guard play experience in terms of playmaking, he's a guy that can be a secondary playmaker. You look at the fact that he was 5th in the Missouri Valley in assist rate last year. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to run him in a bunch of ball screens. I just think he's a really good passer. I think he sees the floor. He makes really heady plays. And hopefully Illinois has more actions off the ball this year. So, like, if Damask has the ball in the perimeter and there's some, hey, you can cut to the basket and he can find it.
You can do that.
Yeah, that's allowed. Yeah.
Coleman Hawkins last year just so frustrated.
I know. I know. No doubt about it. So I think that ability for him just to make smart plays, to be someone that's steady, I think that's what he's going to bring. I think for a team that has a number of questions, I see a steadiness, even making the transition from a mid-major to a high major. The ability to make shots from the perimeter. I like the fact that he's physically strong and yes, now leaner. Ability to play on the wing too. I don't think he's a bad defender. I think he can be a quality defender. I think that Guerrier, yes, if he rebounds like he did at Syracuse, shoots the three like he's done recently, he's got a chance to be. I mean, he was an all-league player in the ACC. I think he was maybe a second or third team guy that sophomore year before he transferred the first time. But and Harmon is probably unsung. I think he's probably a little underrated based on his ability, like what he showed in Spain, the fact that he can defend and get to the basket in transition and whatnot, and has shot it decently at times. So I'll go with Damasco. I think he's the most impactful.
Yeah, that's the guy I would probably choose. Guerrier, I would choose if Coleman Hawkins wasn't here. But Coleman Hawkins and Dane Danger both being here, he's probably a 20-minute-a-game guy, and that's a heck of a guy for 20 to 25 minutes a game if that's what he is. I think he's really going to help with rebounding, stretches the floor a little bit, but getting back to that 4 position. Talking with him, he adds a lot of maturity. He's a really impressive guy. The guy I don't want to overlook is Justin Harmon. I know, like, during the summer after watching that practice, I'm like, where does he fit? But seeing what he did overseas, seeing the one game we got to see of him, if it doesn't go well in the backcourt, he's going to be massive. Like, he's going to be huge for this team. If Sincere Harris struggles offensively, if Ty Rodgers struggles offensively, Justin Harmon could be a guy you really rely on, could start at some point during the season, but I think he's going to play big minutes. And I think just his experience is going to be big. Give him some toughness, give him a guy who's been there. And he did end the season really, really well at Utah Valley. So can he be a sneaky 8+ point per game guy? I'm not overlooking that. Like, I don't think that's ridiculous if he could end up that. I'm not going to project that because the backcourt's got to figure out what it is. But given the lack of proven options around him, he's just a guy that I don't want to overlook.
Definitely. Yeah, I mentioned steadiness with Damask. I think that in comparison to some other guys around him in the backcourt, Harmon can definitely bring that. I mean, you're going to probably ride the freshman roller coaster with Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn, as talented as he is. Sincere Harris offensively leaves a decent amount there to be desired. Ty's in that mix too, obviously, in terms of being a guy in the backcourt that has some challenges offensively. So I think Harmon, I know he didn't shoot the three all that well, like pretty much anybody on that foreign trip, but he was able to get to the rim, use his ability to get his hands on steals, led the team in steals, and his ability to kind of get out and transition and run the break. He's a physical guy. He's tough. He's gritty, hard-nosed, all that. I think he is somebody that is going to be the fact that he's been there before. I mean, the NIT is a little bit different than playing, big time high major basketball, but that was a stage that he performed well in. And he's someone that they've seen get more and more acclimated and comfortable playing in this backcourt. So I agree. I don't think you can sleep on him. I think he's somebody that potentially, depending on how some dominoes fall, you could really, really need him.
Yeah. All right. Which returner, Derek, do you expect to take the biggest leap as a player for Illinois? So this doesn't have to be statistically. It could just be the way they play, the efficiency. So which returner makes the biggest leap?
This is a really good question. I think it's a tough one to call. I think people around the program would tell you that Terrence has made a huge leap. The fact that he now has that mid-range game working, at least on the practice court, how much he's worked on that and tried to add the fact that he's a 3-level scorer now, that he plays, drives to the rim, and he can pull up and hit that shot. And if that's something that really translates for Illinois, he's going to be a load. He's going to be someone that's really, really tough to stop.
Boy, that second game we saw in Europe,
Yeah,
that was a problem.
yeah, he was awesome. Yep, hitting threes and going to the rim, and obviously, I mean, he's as explosive and dangerous in transition as probably anybody in the Big Ten. Coleman, I think if he's the answer, that is huge for Illinois. If offensively, just his decision making is improved, if his catch and shoot is more efficient, that could be a big deal, or just more aggressive around the basket too. I think that was something last year that there were flashes of it late in the season against Penn State. I know Penn State didn't have the bigs around the basket to really challenge him, but I think if Coleman makes that jump offensively, that would be a huge deal. I'll probably still go with Ty. I think Ty will make the biggest jump. Yes, there's probably the most on his plate, the most pressure, playing a position that I don't know if it's out of his comfort zone, but it's just a big challenge. It's a big challenge for him. It's different than the role he had last year. But I just think Ty's a really good player. I think Ty is a guy that, as he is able to go to the basket, can he finish better a little bit, especially with his left hand? That's a big question. But I think sometimes there will be some struggles, obviously, but I do think he's grown a lot, and I'll go with Ty.
The other guy I would throw into this is Dane Danger. Just a year of experience should really help him. I mean, he kind of gets overlooked because the other transfers were so key. And no matter what you think of Matthew Meyer, Illinois doesn't make the NCAA tournament without him. Was a ridiculous scorer and all Big Ten third-team player. But Dane Danger averaged 10 and 6 for his first season of college basketball. And I think we saw the flashes. And boy, he looks in great shape. He looks like he can get up and down the court. So whether it's coming off the bench or starting, whatever it is, he's a great piece. And he reminds me of a little bit of Trevion Williams. Their games are a little bit different. Trevion was an elite passer. I think Dane's okay or above average. Can he take another step there? But just understanding the game. It's like the leap I expect Luke Altmaier to take in his second year, just of having that experience, Derek. Like, can Dane Danger take that kind of leap of just knowing the game, being settled, getting your butt kicked by Trace Jackson Davis a few times? Like, he said, I loved playing him because I learned a lot. Like, I think that's a really mature, healthy attitude. So, Trevion averaged 11 and 7 his second year. Like, I don't know if that's a ridiculous expectation for Danger. He doesn't have to play 25 plus minutes, but he's a really good player. And you throw that in with Coleman Hawkins, Quincy Gary here. That's a really, really good front court. Amani Hansberry as well. So Danger as well. Just the experience. I think he's gonna be a smarter player.
Yeah, and admittedly, now they're not the same player by any means, but when you said Dane getting his butt kicked by TJD, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Kofi getting taken to school by Luka.
Yeah, that's right.
Luka Garza in his first year. And obviously Kofi made a huge jump his second season, especially back to the basket game. And Dane's already pretty polished in terms of his skill set as a back to the basket scorer. I just think having a better feel of when to just make it simple and attack and just power dribble and go up. And I think also passing is a big deal as well. Just kind of having more awareness of what's going on around him, doing a better job of when teams are going to double him, not turning the ball over. So yeah, I agree with just the flat out experience of a guy. I think we kind of forget because of how many years he's been in college now. I mean, I think he took the pictures with the guys who are going to graduate because he's, I think, technically a college senior. He's played one season of college basketball in full. So right. I think that as you look at him physically too, I think he's more have an ability to go up and down the floor and not get worn out. And he had a nice chase-down block in Spain that I didn't see anything out of that from him last year.
He's going to crush it in non-conference play like that. I know they got some big tests, but against those little majors, he's going to do really, really well. Are you looking for unique and comfortable Illini gear? Well, Homefield is a premium collegiate apparel based in Indianapolis that emphasizes their commitment to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. They feature a growing collection of over 150 colleges to choose from, including, of course, the University of Illinois. So go check out homefieldapparel.com because their designs are super unique because they delve into the archives and history of each school using unique logos and iconic moments to create thoughtfully designed apparel. I'm scrolling at homefieldapparel.com right now with their Illini gear, and they have 1989 Fighting Illini basketball long sleeve. They got the Flying Illini logo, the script Illinois. You can get the pants, the joggers, that 1970s script, or a nice hoodie. They got the 80s Illini football helmet, the 2004-05 Illinois basketball logo on a vintage crew neck, the Ringer retro tee, the orange Ringer tee with Fighting Illini basketball on it. Go check these guys out. because not only is the design fantastic, but these shirts, guys, are incredibly comfortable. Home Field is all about authenticity and nostalgia. So give their site a look. It's not the typical Illinois gear you see. You can find them at homefieldapparel.com, where you can see their selection of colleges available, of course, including Illinois. And guess what? Our listeners get 15% off their first order with discount code Illini23. Again, 15% off at homefieldapparel.com with discount code Illini23. Whether you're looking for Illinois football gear for this season or Illini basketball gear for the coming season, check out homefieldapparel.com. We'll see how he does during Big Ten play. All right, you kind of hit on this a little bit, Derek, but Terrence Shannon and Coleman Hawkins return, which gives Illinois this high floor. And they return really their second years as go-to players on a team. So what do you think is the key for each of those guys taking the next step?
Terrence has to be a consistent alpha. He has to be a guy that is in takeover mode, especially when Illinois needs it. You can't be quiet when you're on the wrong side of a run. You can't be quiet in a game where it's tight late against a big-time opponent. So I think there were stretches last year, obviously, when he exploded. You look at UCLA, you look at second half against Northwestern when Illinois needed it, Texas in overtime. He was a big-time player and some big moments for Illinois on the bright side. But there on the flip side, he was inconsistent. And I think that obviously that showed. And when you're one of four unanimous all Big Ten players, you got to be a star pretty consistently. And I think Illinois needs to see that. Yes, in terms of like individual things with his development, the pull-up jumper would be a big addition in terms of ability. Like I think Illinois would like to see that as a shot that maybe he even utilizes more than his three-point shot. I mean, he's just been really streaky as a three-point shooter. Sometimes he has it going, sometimes he doesn't. I would offer up that as a catch and shoot, that was something at Texas Tech he was pretty good in. Can Illinois afford to play him maybe a little bit less off the dribble in the half court and set those opportunities up? We'll see on that. But getting into that mid-range where I think he's going to find a lot of space, a lot of openings would be good. The right hand, of course, people are going to load up on his left hand drive. And can he go right? Can he just be on cue and be able to see the floor and be on balance with his right hand as well? And I think defensively, he's just got so much athleticism. I mean, he's testing in the high levels in terms of like his lateral quickness, his sprint speed at the NBA draft combine. He's got everything you need to really be a pretty impactful defender. I think sometimes it's been a little up and down with him too. So
yeah, I'm good. One word written down: assertive.
Yeah.
We saw every tool, maybe besides that mid-range game that he's been working on the right hand. But we saw every tool for Terrence Shannon to be an All-American last year. For me, it was just mindset. Like it was his first year with a team. I think he was still feeling his way out. I think he thought it was Coleman's team at times. He kind of deferred to Matthew Meyer at times, which I understand, but you are the best player on the team. You have to be the alpha. Ayo Dosunmu just has that mentality no matter what. He came in, he was the alpha. Terrence, it's a different personality, but now I think seeing it, what he is last year, I think now he knows like this is my team. Doesn't mean I got to dominate the ball all the time, but I need to produce like a star all the time. Like I am an All-American caliber player, but he's got to be more assertive to do it. And I agree with you, Derek, on both ends. And I think the NBA told him he needs to work on his ball handling and all that. And I think that mid-range game is huge for him because he can get downhill, but then you got to keep a defender off balance. And the defenders knew he was attacking the rim. So if he can get a floater, if he can get a mid-range jumper, we saw what that could do for Ayo Dosunmu in his second and third years.
100%. I think he's a guy. There's going to be a lot of conversations and have been about leadership. I think he's a lead by example guy. I think that's what he needs to do. Yes, he's a little more soft-spoken. I would like to see him in some crucial moments for this team, like get in a huddle and take command and do some of that stuff. But on that note, I think Coleman Hawkins can do that as well. I think for Coleman, I touched on it already. I think it's decision-making. It's making smart plays within the offense, understanding when you need to be aggressive, understanding that, that they're leaving you open from 15 to 17 feet. Just shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. Catch and shoot threes over step-back threes all the time. And then around the basket, like just be a little bit more aggressive and looking for yours. So I appreciate his unselfishness. I appreciate that he's an IQ player that sees the floor well. Yes, has made some dumb mistakes in the past, but I think that's pretty much it for Coleman because defensively he does a lot of things well. Like he's very versatile and can guard anybody and that whole kind of deal. I know they've talked about him, sprinting down the floor as well. I think that's something that he probably needs to get going and transition a little bit more, especially when he's playing the 5. Like, he can outrun a lot of 5 men, just being a more agile 5-man for Illinois. So I think that's what I'm looking for him. And if he can do that and pick his spots, not be overly aggressive, because I think there's going to, not to like read too much into his comments, but he's like, the NBA wants to see me shoot the ball. There's some times if he might, if he doesn't improve his percentage, especially 28% 3-point shooter last year, if he takes a bunch of threes, that's not going to be good for Illinois. But That's kind of what I'm looking at with him. Yeah, with him, I think he's going to be improved, especially as a facilitator, just because his team around him is going to be smarter, cutting all those things. So I could see him going up to 4 assists a game from 3 assists last year. But for me, it's just don't hesitate. You can shoot the ball. We've seen it at times. I know the shot can be flat at times, but like, shoot the ball. Like, don't hesitate. Don't do the pump fake and all that. Like, if somebody's not guarding you, make them pay. So it's not saying 8 shots from 3 at the top of the key every game, but they need you to shoot. Like, this team needs some shooters, and I think he's capable of doing it. All right. Which freshman makes the biggest impact on the team this season? There's 3. I'll count Nico Moretti as a redshirt freshman, Amani Hansberry, and Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn. Going by Draven now, apparently, rather than Dre. I think that if we would have asked this question June, July, probably would have been pretty consensus, Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn. Amani maybe made some people think about it with what he showed in Spain, like as far as having a double-double the last game, being very productive. I know Brad loves him, like in terms of how hard he plays. He's going to bring physicality. I think he's going to be a guy off the bench. He's going to put his hard hat on and just go to work. I think he's a guy that you really, really like in that role. But Illinois needs Draven Gibbs-Lawhorn in that backcourt to be the most impactful freshman. Yes, Nico Moretti is at a crucial position as well, but I think Gibbs-Lawhorn's in the best position to do it. And I think that's my pick. I think he's a guy that athletically is going to impact Illinois. I think transition, that's going to be a seamless thing for him to go out there and attack the rim and show, he's a guy that can windmill dunk for a reason. So defensively, I think he's got the tools to. I know there's a lot of learning stuff that goes into it for freshmen, like knowing your assignments, knowing help defense, positioning, and all that. And I know have been harping on him. Make sure you don't get screened. Like Trent Frazier had to learn how to just be someone you could never screen. Just has a knack for it. So those are just kind of the finer details of the game that he still has to learn as a young guy, as do most freshmen as well. But and then I think offensively, he'll be some inconsistencies with him. Like he's going to take some shots. You're like, I don't know if that was the smartest decision there. But then he'll flash and ring off a couple of threes or go to the rim. He's going to be a splash player, and hopefully for Illinois' sake, they make some impact plays. Not to disregard Amani, and we'll see Moretti. I know they've talked him up, especially offensively with what he's doing, but I'll go with DGL. Yeah, defense concern for Moretti. 24.6 minutes per game for Jaden Epps last year, 9.5 points per game. I don't know if I'm expecting Dre to do as much statistically as that, but when you look at 41% from the field, 30% from 3, some ups and downs throughout it, but I think the talent is going to shine. So like, I think if you get something similar to that, like I know they're different players. You hope Dre's a little bit better defensively. He's a bit better of a dribbler, it feels like, but Jaden could fill it up at times. So if that's my expectation, is kind of a similar role as what Jaden Epps was. Of course, Jaden Epps had to play a much bigger role than we expected once Sky Clark left the program. So yeah, I would expect Dre to be at least a 15-minute a game guy on this team. Yeah, there's no doubt. And yeah, like you said, in terms of being kind of that score first guard who comes in like Jaden did, I think that's very similar to what Draven is in a position to be able to do. They think that he sees the floor a little bit better, and we'll see. I mean, he's going to get an opportunity as potentially the backup point guard to Ty Rodgers, and if Ty really struggles, maybe it's even more on Draven's plate to really have to be that guy at point guard. So a lot of chances for him to make his mark on this team. Of course, ideally, Ty is acclimating well to that position. You don't demand too much. Obviously, I think that kind of played in a little bit, in my opinion, with Jaden. I think that some of the clashes between Brad and Jaden were at the root of it was Illinois probably putting him in a position and rushing him to be the point guard sooner than he needed to be. But not to go on a tangent there. But I think that, yes, Draven can play 15-plus minutes. There's a chance that as he progresses through the season that he challenges maybe for a starting spot and the way it plays out, or just is a main top 6, top 7 guy in the rotation.
All right, Derek, over under Illinois wins by New Year's Day, 8.5. They have 12 games before New Year's. That includes one game, Big Ten game, Rutgers, at Rutgers. And of course, they have Marquette, FAU, Tennessee, and Missouri. So basically asking you, are they going to get upset by any teams like Colgate after finals? And do they get basically 2 of the 5 big games on this non-conference schedule? Right now, I'm looking at Bart Torvik. They have them listed as an underdog in only 3 of those games. They have them favored against Marquette, but an underdog against Rutgers, FAU, and Tennessee, and a favorite against Missouri, which I don't know about that, given Brad Underwood's record against Missouri.
I'll take the over a little hesitantly, but I'm going to go with that because for a couple of reasons here. You look at Missouri, you got to beat them. You're a better team on paper than them. I know that hasn't played out that well for Brad over the last handful of years. What, he lost 4 of the last 5? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's been a tough game, and one Illinois has been very ill prepared for and just played very poorly in. They did lose 2 guys that really killed you last year, namely Kobe Brown, who went for a career high. I mean, a lot of guys had career highs in Illinois last year, but Missouri attacked the portal once again. They're one of the oldest teams in the country, but Illinois has a lot of experience now too. So I think that Illinois should win that game. I know there's going to be people who are hesitant to predict that or hang their hat too much on that. But another thing, while Rutgers, the RAC is scary. The RAC is a scary place. Steve Pikiell's team's not that scary. Cliff Amore is a really good player, but they lost McConnell. They lost Cam Spencer, an effective shooter who he goes to UConn. And then, of course, Paul Mulcahy decides to go to Washington as well. So I'm not saying Illinois automatically wins that game. They're definitely the better team on paper. And it is one of those early season road tests that can always be tricky. But I kind of like Illinois' chances in that because of the rosters. And the other 3 are really tough. Like Marquette, a lot of people have as a top 10 team going into going in nationally. Tyler Kolek maybe is the best player Illinois is going to see in the non-conference at a point guard out of Marquette. FAU, that's a toss-up game, and I really respect what they obviously were able to do last year. I think their guard play is going to – Elijah Martin and John L. Davis really going to challenge Illinois. That's a cohesive team that brought back pretty much everybody. And Tennessee, I mean, that's a daunting one. On the road, tough environment, very good defensive team. That game maybe is the first of 60. We'll see how that goes. But I'll say they get Missouri and either Marquette or Rutgers.
Yeah. Marquette at home helps. Like that's going to be a fired up crowd. And man, that's where you need Terrence Shannon to be Terrence Shannon. Like UCLA, Texas overtime, Terrence Shannon.
Yes.
I'll just be positive, Derek. We need some positive in our life right now with Illinois Athletics, so I'll go the over with you. Which Big Ten team do you like more than the consensus? I'll go through the Big Ten preseason poll here, Derek. Illinois, 4th. Of course, Purdue picked number 1. Only one person that I saw so far has selected Michigan State to win the league in that athletic poll. Then you have Maryland, number 3, which I think both you and I had them number 3. Illinois, 4. Wisconsin, 5. Indiana, Ohio State, Northwestern, 6 through 8. Iowa, Rutgers, Michigan, 9 through 11. Nebraska, Penn State, Minnesota, 12 through 14. So which team do you like more than the consensus there?
This is a tough one because I'm pretty in line with our colleagues across the Big Ten and what we put together. I would have loved to take in Maryland if people were sleeping on them another year. That was our popular sleeper pick last year. We both liked them going into the year when they were kind of thought to be bubble team, maybe fringe NCAA tournament team or on the other side of it, which obviously they had a pretty darn good year in Willard's first year. And I think they'll be very, very tough this year. Oh man, this is difficult.
I'll throw 2 out there. You were high on Ohio State last year. I
was.
We are 1 spot higher on Ohio State. I have them 6th. We had them 6th in the Big Ten. That was a great finish. They got talent. I think Holtman's a pretty good coach. Last year just went off the rails there. So I'm a little higher on them. And I know you talked about Rutgers' losses, but I just believe in Steve Pikiell, man. They got an identity. Cliff Omoruyi is really good. I think Derek Simpson is going to take a huge leap. Like I really considered him Isaac Trotter for his 24/7 Sports Poll asked us for a breakout candidate. I know I picked Bruce Thornton, who averaged 10 points a game last year, but I just think he's going to be maybe one of the best guards in the Big Ten. I almost picked Derek Simpson because I think he's going to take a big leap. Noah Fernandez was a nice get. They play defense, man. They're tough at home. So I just think Rutgers has a chance to kind of sneak in as top 9 team. I have an 8 above Northwestern, above Iowa, above Michigan. I really appreciate Steve Peichel and their identity.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really hard-nosed, tough team. And obviously they're gearing up for a huge year next year. If they already have Ace Bailey, might get Dylan Harper. That recruiting class is ridiculous. On that note, it sounds like NIL-wise, when Paul Mulcahy was wanting a lot of money, they were stashing for their recruiting class, which
smart
seems to be doing well for them. I might take a buy on Iowa. I don't know where to put them. Like their range of outcomes is very, very difficult to kind of deal with, but it's going to be a team that can score. Like it always is. Fran McCaffrey. I know Tony Perkins had a heck of a finish last year. You look at February 1st and on, he averaged like 16 or 17 points a game. They bring back Patrick McCaffrey. Peyton Stanford can shoot the heck out of it. And Ben Krieke from Valpo, a guy that had good numbers, obviously at a mid-major, but he comes in as a big man that can give him a scoring punch as well. And I'll just say, like, Fran's done a really good job of recruiting like under the radar guys that hit and really been able to develop guys. So like, I think the year that they won the Big Ten tournament, they had lost Garza, they had lost Bohannon and Wieskamp, and they come back and they're like picked 10th or 11th in the league, and they win the Big Ten tournament because Keegan Murray just explodes. So could that happen this year? I don't know to that level, but I think they could be better than some people think.
Yeah, like it would not shock me if like Iowa was better than Indiana or Northwestern at the end of this year, right? Because they're going to score points. And Fran McCaffrey, only 2 coaches have won more Big Ten games over the last 4 years than Fran McCaffrey. Brad Underwood at 55, Matt Painter at 51. Fran McCaffrey is 48. Like wow. He's done a heck of a job. And I know the Luka Garza thing, but he deserves a ton of credit for Luka Garza, Keegan Murray, Tony Perkins, like these guys he's been able to get. All right, who's a team you're lower on than the consensus, Derek, to wrap this thing up?
Let's see. Northwestern, if they were ranked higher, I probably would have went with them, because you look at Bart Torvik, they were like 5th or so in the preseason rankings, but a lot of people kind of selling on them after obviously a really good year last year.
That feels like a regression to the mean at the very least. I had them 9th, so they're 8th in the poll. I thought they'd be a little higher than that. I think they do regress to the mean a little bit.
Rutgers is probably low enough. I don't know if I'd go lower on them.
Everyone agrees with us on Michigan. Like we're really close to the consensus.
I know.
So this is difficult.
I know.
Indiana probably for me. They're 6th in the poll, but I had them 7th. I don't see that roster unless Mbako is amazing. I just don't see it. Xavier Johnson's got to be great. They'll be able to defend. They'll be able to rebound, but can they score? Like I still don't see shooters on this team, Derek. Like they're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. They need better guards. Listen, Trey Galloway's a nice player. Xavier Johnson's solid veteran, but they need more shot makers, and they just got a bunch of power forwards, feels like.
They loaded up in the front court. Yeah, for sure. And we'll see if Khalil Ware lives up to his potential. Had a nice addition in Sparks from Ball State as well. But if Xavier Johnson's healthy, he's one of the better point guards in the league, but not really a big time shot maker, I would say. Really good defender, good assist man. But yeah, I mean, Galloway, to rely on him for more scoring punch on the wing is probably a tough situation to be in. And man, Trace Jackson Davis was just amazing last year. To lose him is huge. So I could see the experiment not going right for Indiana. They got some talent, and obviously have some more on the way with how many 5-stars they're involved with pushing forward. But it wouldn't be surprising if they disappoint this year. Yeah,
they're 12-8 in the Big Ten last year. And
is there a chance Michigan State's too high? Probably not, but
I don't think so. Like I can see Maryland finishing ahead of them.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be difficult for Michigan State to win a regular season championship over Purdue. I mean, Zach Edey's just ridiculous. Matt Painter's a great coach. They got good pieces around him. I guess 4 people did pick Michigan State to win the league. Their guard plays awesome.
Yeah,
just awesome. They do have some questions on the front court. Can Jaden Akins take another leap? But they're deep, man. They got a lot of talent, and I just those guards, AJ Hogard and Tyson Walker, just a great pair.
There are people out there. The counter, I guess, is that they go 11-9 in the league last year, and they lost. Some would say their best player in Joey Hauser. I probably say that Tyson Walker is a little bit better than him, maybe even AJ Hogard. But, yeah, I really like the guard play. Their freshman class is really talented with Booker and Jeremy Fears and even Cohen coming in, athletic wing. But, yeah, I think it's Purdue and probably Michigan State, and then there's maybe a little bit of a gap depending on what happens to Illinois. I think Wisconsin could be a little bit better than some people think too. They're a sneaky pick for that. They could finish above 5th. Like, they bring back everybody. AJ Storer was a nice addition in the portal. And I think Connor Essegian, he might have been my breakout player if I was looking for one in the league, because I think that he showed a lot of encouraging things last year and could step into a bigger role this season.
Yeah, they're just going to do their Wisconsin thing. The ceiling seems a little tapped, but they got everybody coming back, and they're a good team. Maryland would not shock me of being a contender. Yes. They just got talent, man. They got really good. They probably got the best guard in the league, point guard in the league, and Jameer Young. Julian Reese was an all Big Ten, top 10 guy for me. The way he ended the season was ridiculous. Oh, and Dante Scott, Illini killer, still there. Then they have a ridiculous freshman class. Deshaun Harris-Smith was my freshman of the year pick. I think it's going to be between him and Mbako. So, yeah, they're loaded. Kevin Willard, man, I really like what he's doing.
Buying stock in them. And kind of a sneaky ad. I'm not saying he's awesome, but Jordan Geronimo's a decent piece. Yeah. To add some physicality, experienced guy in that front court. I like that team a lot. And yeah. I think Willard long-term is going to be a big-time contender and a guy that's going to be tough to deal with in the Big Ten.
Sure. Derek Piper, good to talk some hoops, man. We'll have to do this a little bit more frequently now with basketball season right around the corner and football season not going so well. Thank you, buddy.
Let's do it. I'll see you at State Farm Center in what, like
8 days? 8 days. Hey, wow. Wait, before I let you go, You're Justin Fields all in. Even if the Panthers give us the #1 pick.
Yeah. It's not the most popular take, but I'm riding with my guy. I think in the right situation, he's got enough talent to be the guy. And I get it. Like, Caleb Williams looks like he could be special, and passing up on that opportunity would be pretty difficult. But I also think that I saw the haul that the Bears were able to get for the spot to get Bryce Young. I mean, the ceiling that's going to be assumed with Williams would bring back an even bigger return to build around Justin Fields. I'm not going to – I get it. Like, what he did against the Broncos and the Commanders, two not very good defense, especially the Broncos. They're atrocious. But I think that I'm excited about him. I think that –
it's a great problem to have. It's a great problem to have. The fact that, hey, we got a guy that maybe at times, like, we got to see it over 12 more games before I go all in on him. But – it's a good problem to have. Like, I can root for my team, but also root for a tank at the same time, Derek. It's a great place to be. Yeah. Ryan Poles has had some really questionable moves, head coach Chase Claypool. But, boy, this Panthers trade looks pretty good. So I like what he's done there.
It looks really, really good. I just don't want people to write it off too soon. I've seen too many clips of guy on First Take says you got to trade Justin Fields now, or people are saying, Fields is done after this year. Like, I think they've forgotten the second half of last year and then just kind of what he can do. If you call reasonable plays, I know it's been a challenge for Luke Getsy so far. If you put a decent offensive line in front of him, which we haven't really done yet, and can you get him a decent receiving core too? So if you go out in the offseason, find a way to get T. Higgins, trade for some pieces that allows you to get Marvin Harrison Jr. and some offensive line help, and let's roll. Let's roll, baby.
I like it. At worst, Justin Fields would have a market. He would have a market if he continues to play like this. No I will wear my DJ Moore jersey on my flight home from DC. I bought it there. I'm all in on that guy. He's probably the best wide receiver we've seen. I mean, Brandon Marshall was pretty good.
He was really good,
but that was short-lived. So
3 touchdowns, man. That was awesome.
All right, have a good week.
Give us something to cheer about. Safe travels to DC, man. Enjoy it, and hopefully we have a game to watch on Saturday.
Well, there will be a game. We'll see if it's a competitive game into the second half. Thank you, Derek.
Anytime, man. See you.
I'm very excited to announce our new partnership with Underdog Fantasy. We decided to partner with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Underdog Fantasy has a lot to offer, including their Pick'em game. In Pick'em, you pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. It's so easy to play. Just pick 2 to 5 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. They also have a Best Ball Mania. If you think you know football, you got to check this one out. This year's Best Ball Mania has $15 million in total prizes up for grabs, with the winner taking home $3 million. So sign up today with promo code Illini and get your first deposit doubled up to $500. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with my promo code Illini to get your first deposit doubled up to $500. That's a new deal. It was previously $100, now it's $500. Must be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org.